Hi everyone, welcome back to Renelle B TV. I'm Renelle B, your yoga instructor, holistic health coach, and intuition development coach. And so today we're going to be discussing a pretty relevant topic for this time, which is how to naturally boost our immune system during cold and flu season. And so we're going to be going over a few different tips and tricks that I always really aim to follow during cold and flu season to help my body and to help support my immune system during these winter months when our immune system tends to go down because of numerous different factors, which we'll touch base on throughout this video. And so the first tip is going to be to ensure that you have proper sleep. And so not only do you want to make sure that you're having good sleep, but you also want to make sure that you're getting good and long enough of a sleep. So you want to aim for at least 7 hours of good sleep. And so there are a few tricks that I'm going to share with you guys if you tend to be that kind of a person who has a really hard time falling asleep at night. One of the things that I always recommend is to prevent screen time after, let's say, 6-7 p.m. at night. If that doesn't seem reasonable for you and you want to be on the TV or computer or you have to do work late at night, then I'd recommend you guys take a look and invest in a good pair of reading glasses. You can get prescription glasses as well with a blue lens, and this blue lens is going to help prevent any blue light from coming into your eyes, which actually really impede in your body's natural rhythm of daylight and sleep, because that blue light triggers like this false sense of daylight, and so your brain is tricked into thinking that it's still daytime, and by the time you go to sleep it might not necessarily go through the same hormonal changes and things that it naturally would had you not been exposed to so much light. Another thing that I really like doing is actually lighting up candles in the evening, especially in my own space, in my room, in my bathroom, and things like this, to help not have such harsh light and to naturally try to get my body into a little bit more of a low state where it's ready for bedtime. You also want to make sure that you're getting at least 7 hours of sleep. I don't know if I mentioned that already. And if you also want another good trick is either have a really dark room when you're sleeping to prevent anything from disturbing your sleep. If you don't have curtains or if you have a lot of light, I'd recommend you getting a nice eye mask. And the other tip is going to get earplugs if you tend to get disturbed by sounds in your neighborhood and you wake up to that. So those are a few tricks of mine that I'm sharing with you guys in terms of how to help you guys get proper good night's sleep. Chamomile tea is also a really good one. Chamomile is a natural nervine and calming agent, and that's just going to help your body relax. The muscles will help to release any tension, and that'll maybe help you ease into a good night's sleep as well. So the next tip that we're going to talk about today is to stay warm. This is especially for my northern friends, northern Canada, USA, wherever you are in the world and you have that really cold climate. You're going to want to make sure that you are staying warm. Personally, I tend to be a little bit of a cold-blooded person, and I always dreaded winter time because I was always cold and always looking for blankets and heat. And so it wasn't until I discovered thermal wear that winter became a little bit more tolerable, but I also saw a reduce in my sicknesses or getting colds and flus. And so a really great thing to look up for in the spring and summertime is thermal wear that goes on sale, because thermal wear, especially if you're getting merino wool, which is what I recommend, can be a little bit pricey, and so you'd want to be researching some specials in the spring and summer and maybe invest in 1 or 2 pieces every year. But you're going to want to have a top layer, some sort of a legging that you can put on top of your below or underneath your jeans or whatever you're wearing in the wintertime, and a pair of socks, and that'll drastically keep your body temperature really comfortable throughout the wintertime so that you're not extremely cold, and that will help to reduce your likelihood of getting sick because our immune system can get compromised when our body is just not working in a balanced state, if you're too cold or too hot, that kind of thing. The next thing is kind of in relation to staying warm, but it's to drink lukewarm water, enough water, and to stay away from drafts. The last one's a little bit of an old wives' tale, but we'll get back to that. So along the lines of staying warm, I tend to always be either drinking tea or a lukewarm water. I definitely do not drink ice cold water in the winter time. It's actually really interesting too, because when I came to Mexico, that was one of the things that people don't do here. And it's a warm place, and you would think that that wasn't the case. But it's kind of an old wives' tale even here that you shouldn't drink ice cold drinks because of the way that it kind of shocks your system. And any time our system is shocked, that's just a weakened moment of immune system, and that's maybe when a bug can come in and kind of create that sickness. And so, old wives' tale, but it might work for you if you want to try it out. The other thing is to drink enough water, so you want to be getting at least a liter a day. And the consumption of water is something that you really have to take a look at based on your height and weight as well. I tend to aim for at least a liter a day, but necessarily 8 cups a day might not be sufficient for someone who's much bigger than I am. And 8 cups seems to be a little on the low side. So you want to be aiming for a good solid liter or more of water a day. And then stay away from drafts. This is another old wives' tale, and I thought it was kind of funny, but it's true. I have vivid memories of being a kid and being in front of an AC and getting sick the next day. And vice versa, if you're by a heater and that direct heat can also make you sick, or that direct draft of warm air, I find it always always makes me congested. And so that's also something that you guys can take a look at and maybe prevent if you can. And so for the drafts, it's either cold or warm drafts. Try to stay away. The next thing that we're going to talk about is proper diet. And again, diet is one of the crucial steps when it comes to keeping your body's immune system in proper health. And so our diet is going to want to be focused around whole foods, eating a range of different colors so that you're getting different nutrients and vitamins. And I also even try to circulate different meats. And so you don't necessarily want to be eating the exact same thing every single day. You want to expose your body to different nutrients, different vitamins, and things like this. So even with your meat, you're going to want to have chicken, fish, lamb, beef, and a wide array of different meats that you can. I always recommend trying to source as locally as possible and as organic as possible to relieve your body from the necessary need of basically detoxing from all these pesticides and hormones that are so often found in non-organic meats. Now, organic produce and organic meats and dairy and things like this can be a little bit pricier. So if you can get in touch with a local farmer to help cut the cost, that's a really good opportunity for you guys to connect with your food and to connect with your local food source. Otherwise, if you live in a bigger city, when I was in Toronto, I joined a local co-op. And it was an organic co-op, and they source as locally as possible. And if they couldn't find something locally, they worked with organic farms elsewhere and they brought it in. But essentially you have to work a day or two a month or per week, depending on the kind of discount you're going to be offered. In return, you get that discount for these organic produce. And so that's another alternative for you guys too. And then, I mean, there are certain things that you don't necessarily have to get organic. In terms of fruits and vegetables, the things that tend to be the most sprayed are going to be kale, your berries. Strawberries are extremely sprayed, spinach. You're also going to, on the flip side, things like bananas aren't that big of a deal because if they are sprayed, you're not eating the peel. So think of the peel that you're going to be consuming or something that's directly ingested. You're going to want to take care of that first before targeting things like bananas or avocados and things like that. But if you can afford it, definitely try to do as much organic as possible, because it will greatly improve your body's natural ability to fight off disease and to improve your immune system. The next thing, which is actually a supplement that I'm going to recommend to you guys, is chaga. And so I have here my chaga that I use. And so chaga is actually a really interesting mushroom. And so I'll show you it here. But the chaga mushroom grows on birch trees. And it looks like a piece of burnt wood. It's usually found on the top part of a birch tree. So if you are going to go foraging for it, you would want to have somewhat of a good climbing skill. Chaga is really, really interesting because it's filled with tons of vitamins, nutrients, antioxidants. It's anti-cancer. It really helps to boost your immune system. It's really, really phenomenal for all of the immune boosting things that we're looking at today. And so chaga can basically be made into a concentrated tea. And so you would be using, if you're using the nugget, you would want about a palm size, about 4 or 5 nuggets of chaga, something like this, and about 4 or 5 liters of water. What you're going to then do is basically bring your water to boil, and then you're going to simmer it with the lid on for about an hour at least. And you can even brew it for a little bit longer than that if you'd like. And then you're going to have a really strong concentrated chaga tea, which you can drink for a week or so, depending obviously on how many people you're sharing this with. But if you were a single person, you would be drinking about a cup a day. And so that's my recommendation for you guys. I also have here a different form of chaga. It's chaga, it's just ground up. Now, the thing that is really interesting when it comes to herbs and things like this is that a lot of the times they recommend you having it as less processed as you can in terms of grinding things up, because when you're grinding things, you're exposing the properties to air, and so you can actually lose some of those nutrients just by grinding it up. But I do have this, however, and I usually use it for single cups in a less strong brew. And then for that case, you're going to want one of these tea caddies that you're just going to fill up, because you want to reuse your chaga, whether it's the whole nugget or if it's the ground up parts. And you can actually reuse your chaga up to 4 or 5 times. And so recycle your chaga, use it a couple times before you throw it out, or you compost it more so. Compost your chaga, guys. And then, so the really interesting thing about chaga, I forgot to mention, so it grows on birch trees. But essentially what it's doing and what makes it so powerful is the fact that this mushroom is essentially killing the birch tree. But in doing so, it is leaching out all of the nutrients and vitamins and basically life force energy from the tree and into the mushroom. And so when it's cultivated in the couple first weeks of frost, all those nutrients get localized in the mushroom, they get foraged, and then we consume all of those vitamins. And I've read tons of anecdotes of people who swear by chaga. I mean, we drink a lot of it here. We should probably be drinking a little bit more than we do right now. But a cup a day is really, really great. And so these people, 2 stories that I can share, one of which was this man who was living in a house with 10 other people, and there was a huge flu going around in the house, and he was the only one who did not get sick, and he really attests this to his drinking chaga daily. Another woman, she was undergoing chemotherapy, and I'm not quite sure on what cancer she was fighting. I think she was at a later stage of her cancer, but she attests to drinking chaga every single day during her chemotherapy treatments, and it helping her not have so many of the really awful side effects that chemotherapy will have in terms of lack of energy, vomiting, nausea, lack of appetite, and all of these more negative associations with cancer treatments. And so chaga really helped her, it seemed, as she said, to uplift her immune system and body and essentially her way of life during her treatment. And so that's something that I would really recommend you guys take a look at. The next thing that we're going to touch base on is making sure that you're getting vitamin D, C, and E, and a really good multivitamin. And so all of these vitamins are going to be really essential in maintaining a proper immune system. The vitamin D specifically for northern people who don't have a lot of sunlight in the winter months, it's going to be really, really crucial for you to take a vitamin D supplement. And I typically get those vitamin D drops, which have about 1,000 units of vitamin D per drop. And I usually do 2 drops personally, because it's sometimes, vitamin D is kind of one of those things where you have to fill up your tank and then maintain. And a lot of the times, if you're not exposed to a lot of vitamin D over the course of many, many weeks, your vitamin D goes down, and then you have to kind of build that back up over the course of weeks before you can kind of go back to a normal supplementation. Obviously, consult your doctor. I'm not a doctor. I can't necessarily prescribe dosaging to you guys, but that's just personally what I do. The other thing that I do is I make sure that I have tons of vitamin C, which brings me to this really fun tea. So this is pine needle tea, and it's from a white birch pine tree. So again, for my northern friends, you guys can actually go foraging for white pine, either needles or white pine bark. This is actually, both of these, Chaga and the pine needle, is a indigenous practice in order to boost your immune system. And so pine needle and pine needle bark have an extraordinarily good amount of vitamin C. More than like most fruit you would ever consume. Like an orange you think would have a lot of vitamin C. This is like eating 20 oranges. And so you want to be consuming either a vitamin C supplement, or you can supplement with natural herbs, which is something I really, really enjoy doing because it is assimilated in the body a little bit more easily, and it's just more recognizable for the body when you're taking something a little bit more pure than a synthetic pill that has to be broken down and kind of your body doesn't necessarily always know what to do with it. And so vitamin C, I would recommend pine needle tea or harvesting pine bark. And so just a quick note, you guys, if you are going to be foraging either for chaga or for pine needle, you really, really want to be practicing ethical foraging, because we want to be taking care of our earth as much as we can and really respecting nature's bounty. And we do that by using the proper tools and equipment to do so. We do so by not cultivating more than we need, and we do so by not destroying a plant or a tree and killing it completely. As for the chaga and the pine, you can even cultivate from a tree that's been fallen, that has recently fallen. For the chaga, even, well, you know what, I'm not going to say you can cultivate from a birch tree that's been, like, is slowly dying. I'm not sure if that would be optimal, but I am going to be posting a blog post here, and I have an article about cultivating and foraging for pine needles and chaga, and I'm going to be placing the links there. So be sure to check that out, but definitely forage humanely and ethically. Okay, as for the vitamin E, you're going to want to do that because it helps the antibody production and cell, where am I here? Cell-mediated immunity. And then finally is a really good multivitamin. Now, I don't necessarily always recommend supplementing with vitamins. As I just mentioned, I would really prefer that everybody has a really good wide range diet where you're getting all those different nutrients from your food. But depending on the quality of your food, the accessibility of fresh fruits and vegetables, because another thing is that if your food is being imported all the time and it's not being pulled out of the dirt near you, then the oxidization process begins on that fruit, and you're going to slowly be reducing that food's natural vitamin percentage, I guess you could say. And so fresher the better. And so if you cannot have all of these really amazing fruits and vegetables and meats and things like this, then maybe a multivitamin is a really good thing to lean on for a certain period of time until you can kind of work your way towards having that bounty more readily available for yourself. And then we have 3 more things that we're going to target. One of them is one of my favorite things that I always recommend any friend, family, everybody in my circle knows about oregano oil. And so oregano oil has by far saved my butt a bazillion times from getting sick. And so oregano oil is basically an antimicrobial, and it's a natural antibiotic. And so with this being said, you would want to take oregano oil at the first sign of a sickness. And so for me personally, I can tell I've listened to my body a lot when it comes to meditation and yoga and mindfulness, and I have this instinct now of when I know I'm about to get sick. I get an itch in my throat, I get a little bit tired, my shoulders and neck starts to tense up in an unnormal type of a way, and then that's my sign to basically go and take my oregano oil. And most of the time I have alleviated and prevented a lot of colds and flus that way. Another really good trick is if you're traveling and you're going to be undergoing stress or a flight or something like this, oregano oil is always a really good thing to bring during your travels, to take with you as an emergency if you do feel like you tend to get sick when you're really stressed out, or if you're traveling and things like that. And so keep oregano oil in your medicine cabinet and you will not regret it. It is pretty awful tasting, and so you'll want to take it with a shot of grapefruit juice is a really, really good option for you guys to cut back on the bitterness of the oil. I also give a ton of other tricks and tips when it comes down to natural medicines over on my premium membership on Yoga on Demand with my website renelb.com. And so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about natural medicines, herbal medicines, and things like that, I literally just posted for my Yoga on Demand members my top 8 natural herb medicines for boosting your immune system. And I also go into a little bit more tips when it comes to what to take when you first have that initial, oh my gosh, I'm getting a cold, my body feels off, what should I do? And I give checks for that as well. So be sure to check that out. I'm going to leave my website in the description below so you guys have access to all that information as well. Okay, finally, the 2 last, stress management is a really, really big one. Stress is going to lower your immune system by far. Emotional stress, physical stress, mental stress, any type of stress on the body lowers your body's natural ability to fight illness and disease. And so we want to support our immune system by having a really good stress management regimen. One of them being maybe getting into yoga or meditation. Meditation is one of those really great things because it helps you to develop inner mindfulness. And when we cultivate mindfulness and stillness and peace in the body, we not only learn to naturally relax the nervous system, we learn to relax the breath, which is a big part of it. We learn to relax the mind. We learn to see what thoughts we think throughout the day and how those impact our life and our decisions and our impulses. We learn to not be so impulsive and less reactive to things. Meditation is by far one of my top stress management practices and tools that I offer anybody from Yoga on Demand on my membership page, or any of my health coaching clients as well. But you'll definitely want to find ways to lower your stress in life. Yoga is another really, really great practice as well because it's a movement meditation, and so it's kind of like taking your meditation and implementing it in your own personal movement. And so It's kind of like the first step in integrating mindfulness in waking life, if you want to see it that way. I don't want to get into too much of a spiel about yoga and meditation right now. That's going to be another video maybe coming up. But just know that yoga and meditation is really, really phenomenal when it comes to stress management, and I highly recommend it. The next thing is going to be medicinal herbs, which we've touched base on the oregano, the pine needle, and the chaga. Those are all considered medicinal herbs, but there are also tons of other medicinal herbs that you can start implementing in your life to help not only boost your immune system, but there's also tons of information out there on how to prevent certain diseases, how to help mitigate certain diseases, and things like that. Again, if you guys are interested with working with me one-on-one, I do provide holistic health coaching as well as a little bit of a herbal protocol for clients who work with me individually. And the same thing goes with yoga and meditation as well. So if you're interested in working with me, but you don't want to necessarily commit to a one-on-one program, Yoga On Demand is going to offer you new yoga classes 5 days a week, meditations. We go through my favorite health coaching rituals, beauty rituals, mindfulness rituals, health rituals. It's a really, really great channel that's offered on my website. And I also offer weekly guided meditations on there as well to help you build up your own personal meditation practice, because meditation can be a little bit intimidating when you're first starting off. And so I really try to offer everyone who works with me the kind of fundamentals at first, and then we dive into a little bit more interesting types of meditation as well. And so that's it. Those are my tips for you guys today. I hope that you take any little nugget here that is going to help you, and I hope that you implement that in your everyday life. Be sure to check the blog post associated with this video on renellb.com. Again, check the description box below because I do share a little bit more in-depth information there that I might not have spoken about in this video. And yeah, that's everything. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment box below. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, I'm always here to help. I love to be there for you guys, and so reach out, don't be scared, and as always, I'm sending you all so much love and light your way. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll catch you in our next video. Bye for now.